Did you just call me a burrito? That was the first thing he ever texted me. And no, I didn't call him burrito, but autocorrect sure did. I meant to say brilliant, as in, you're a brilliant designer. But my phone had other plans. My thumb froze the second I saw it. You're a burrito. Great. Just great. I stare at the message, equal parts mortified and confused. Because here's the kicker. I hadn't meant to text him at all. The message was from my friend Zoe, gushing about this designer I'd found on Instagram, who made minimalist wedding invitations that looked like they belonged in a gallery. Instead, I'd apparently sent it to a random number, or so I thought. A minute later, he replied, "Extra cheese or spicy?" Just so I know how offended to be. I burst out laughing. At my desk, in my open plan office, in front of at least 4 co-workers who already thought I was losing it this week because of the almond milk debacle. Long story, don't ask. But in that moment, all I could do was clutch my phone and giggle like a teenager. I typed back, "Definitely extra cheese. And definitely not meant for you. Wrong number. Sorry." He replied, "Best wrong number I've ever gotten. So what do I win?" That was the beginning. I didn't know his name. Didn't know his face. But that night, something pulled me back to the conversation. I could have left it. I should have. I mean, what kind of person keeps texting a stranger? Apparently me. We kept talking. First, it was dumb jokes, burrito puns, then music, podcasts. He hated true crime. Huge red flag, but he redeemed himself with his knowledge of obscure 90s sitcoms. He told me I reminded him of Topanga from Boy Meets World. I told him he probably said that to every accidental texter. His texts were warm, funny, unfiltered, but not in a creepy way. The kind of banter that made me laugh in public and blush in private. We never exchanged photos. No Instagram handles. Just words. That was the rule, unspoken but clear. And somehow it was enough. It was 3 weeks before I told Zoe. "You're talking to a random man you met through a wrong number and you haven't Googled him or stalked his socials?" She asked, her voice somewhere between impressed and horrified. What if he's a 70-year-old serial killer? Then he's the most emotionally intelligent serial killer on Earth. He asked how my therapy session went. Zoe, he remembered I was nervous. She blinked. "Wait, you told him you're in therapy?" "I don't know. It just came out." That was the thing. I told him things I hadn't even told my ex, things like how my mom used to hum while brushing my hair, and how the silence in my apartment felt heavier since the breakup. He didn't try to fix it. He just listened, or, well, texted back with thoughtful replies that felt like warm hands around my heart. The problem with texting a stranger is that reality has a way of creeping in. One Friday, he stopped replying. No warning, no explanation, just silence. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did. I tried not to obsess. I told myself he probably dropped his phone in the toilet or got amnesia or joined a silent retreat. But days passed, then a week. Then he texted, "Sorry, something came up. Needed time." I stared at the screen for a long time. I wanted to ask what happened. Wanted to scream, "You don't just disappear on people like that." But I didn't. Instead, I sent, "Glad you're okay." He replied, "I am now. Thanks for waiting." And somehow that made it okay. Not perfect, not explained, but okay. We never crossed certain lines. Never shared our real names. Never talked about meeting. That was a safety net. The distance that made it feel purer. But I was lying to myself. I wanted to know him, the real him. So I broke the rule. One night, half drunk on hard cider and Spotify nostalgia, I asked, "Do you ever think about what would happen if we met?" He didn't reply for 10 minutes. Long enough for me to regret it. Then, "Yeah, I do. More than I should." I held my breath. "But what if meeting ruins it?" he added. "What if it's better in the bubble?" I understood. I really did. Because reality was messier than emojis. In the real world, people ghosted, cheated, misunderstood each other. In the bubble, he was just the guy who made me laugh when I felt like crying. The guy who called me his burrito and meant it like a compliment. But my heart, didn't want a bubble anymore. It wanted something real. The day I actually saw him, I wasn't supposed to be there. I had taken a detour after work, one of those mental health walks you justify with an overpriced iced chai latte and the excuse of fresh air. It was one of those golden hour afternoons, where the sun made the pavement look cinematic and even the garbage bags on the sidewalk had a glow up. I wandered without a plan, just letting my feet follow the beat of my playlist. Something moody but upbeat. Phoebe Bridgers. Maybe. I turned onto a street I hadn't visited in years, the kind with boutique candle shops, overpriced succulents, and bookstores that doubled as therapy spaces. And that's when it happened. There he was. Not that I knew it immediately. My eyes were drawn to laughter. A man inside a bookstore, his head thrown back mid-laugh. The kind of laugh that warms a whole room. He was tallish, dark curls, wearing a forest green flannel over a white tee. But it wasn't just the look. It was the vibe, the way he moved, the expressive hands, the light in his eyes. It was everything and nothing at once. I stopped, dead in my tracks. Time did that weird elastic thing. A second felt like a year. And then he pulled out his phone. He smiled at it. A small, private smile. Not the kind you give Instagram or email. The kind you give a text from someone who makes your day lighter. And I swear my stomach flipped. I didn't go in. My legs locked. My brain screamed at me to move, say something, do something. But my body? Frozen. I stood outside that bookstore like a creep, heart racing, iced chai sweating in my hand, watching him. What if it wasn't him? But what if it was? Eventually, I walked away. Slowly, like my body wasn't mine. I didn't text him that night. I couldn't. Because how do you say, I may have accidentally seen you in real life, and now I'm low-key spiraling about the state of my sanity and the metaphysical implications of destiny? You don't. So I didn't. The next morning, he texted me first. Him, you ever just feel like the universe is trying to tell you something? I stared at the screen, pulse in my throat. Me? Like what? Him, like, maybe you're closer to something than you think. Cue internal screaming. Was he talking about me? Or was this one of those vague, poetic things he did sometimes? Like when he sent me an entire monologue about the symbolism of half-melted ice cream. Me, did you drop your ice cream again? Him, nope. Just a weird vibe today. Can't explain it. Oh, the irony. We kept texting that day. Business as usual. Silly memes. Mildly inappropriate jokes. He made a pun about ghosts in IKEA. Call it paranormal flat activity. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost stayed there. But under all of it, I felt like I was keeping a secret. Because I was. I told Zoe. Of course I did. She shrieked so loudly over the phone, I had to lower the volume. You saw him? In the wild. I think I saw him. It's not confirmed. But your gut knew, didn't it? You always say your intuition is scary accurate. Like a witch, but with Wi-Fi. I sighed. Yeah, it felt like him. She paused. So why didn't you go in? I panicked. My brain short-circuited. Also, I was wearing my ex's hoodie and looked like a swamp witch. Hot, mysterious, enigmatic, homeless, still sexy. I laughed, but underneath it was something stickier, something scared, because the bubble had been pierced. And now all I could think about was what came next. That weekend, he went quiet again. Not completely. Just slower. The kind of slow that makes your thumb hover over your phone every 10 minutes. I tried not to overanalyze. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he was tired. Or maybe he was feeling it too. The shift. The closeness. I wanted to ask. I wanted to scream. I saw you, I think. Did you feel it too? But I didn't. Because what if I was wrong? Or worse, what if I was right and he didn't want it to be real? On Monday, I sent a message. Just one sentence. Me. Have you ever broken a rule you made up just to protect yourself? He didn't reply right away. Hours passed. I regretted it. Rewrote it in my head 100 ways. Debated deleting it. Then, him. Yes, once. I texted back the stranger who called me a burrito. I laughed. out loud, in a very not funny staff meeting. Him, that stranger made me feel less alone. Still does. Me, even if it's just texts. Him, especially because it's just texts. A beat. Him, why do you ask? I stared at my screen, and then I typed the truth. Me, because I think I saw you. There was a pause. Then a call. He was calling me. We had never spoken on the phone, never heard each other's voices. I stared at the screen. My hand trembled. I answered. His voice was lower than I expected. Warm, like caramel in coffee and a thunderstorm rolling in. Where? He asked. No preamble. The bookstore on Mason. Friday, around 6. Silence. I was there, he said. My breath caught. I felt something, he added, softer. I kept looking around, like I was supposed to notice something. Someone. I was outside. Why didn't you come in? I was scared. So was I. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was sacred, like both of us were holding the same fragile thing in our hands. Then he said, what do we do now? I don't know. I don't want to lose the magic, he said. Maybe the magic was never the bubble. I whispered, maybe it's us. We didn't rush into a meeting. Not yet, but things shifted after that. The texting turned softer, deeper. We started using voice notes. I found out his laugh matched the one I saw in the bookstore. He learned I sometimes cry at cereal commercials. The distance felt different now. Less like protection, more like anticipation. One day he sent, him, if we ever meet, really meet, I want it to be a Tuesday. Me, why Tuesday? Him, because no one expects life to change on a Tuesday. I smiled. Maybe Tuesdays weren't so ordinary after all. Here's the thing about texting someone you're probably in love with. Eventually, you run out of memes. I hit that point on a random Wednesday afternoon. I had just sent him a blurry photo of a pigeon eating a croissant and captioned it, me, trying to look graceful while emotionally crumbling. He replied with a crying laugh emoji and a string of pigeon puns. But I could feel it. The shift. The end of our meme era was upon us. I texted Zoe. Me, we've reached the emotional meme ceiling. Zoe, oh no. That means it's time to actually be vulnerable. Godspeed. And she wasn't wrong. Vulnerability is terrifying, especially when your entire relationship has been built on the digital equivalent of witty banter, accidental vulnerability, and the occasional philosophical musing on burritos. But something in me wanted the next step, even if it scared the hell out of me. That night, at exactly 11:47 p.m., because of course it was nearly midnight, he texted, him, can I tell you something weird? Me, only if it's at least 30% spooky. Him, whenever I have a bad day, I reread our first conversation. The burrito one. It's stupid, but it makes me feel grounded. Cue me melting into a puddle of unprepared feelings. I wasn't wearing the emotional armor required for that kind of truth. Me, that's not stupid. That's kind of beautiful. Like a comfort blanket, but digital and Tex-Mex flavored. Him, burrito theory. Love is when the weirdest thing about you makes someone else smile. Me, you're dangerously close to putting that on a tote bag. We laugh, but after that, something opened, the kind of invisible hinge that clicks in your chest when someone hands you a little piece of their soul and trusts you not to drop it. We started asking real questions after that. Not the flirty, what's your favorite pizza toppings kind. The real ones. The jagged ones. The ones that make you pause before answering. Him, what do you fear most in relationships? Me, being too much. Or not enough, depending on the day. Him, that people leave when they see the version of me I keep under the surface. We didn't rush to comfort each other. We let the silence hold the weight. And maybe that's what real connection is, allowing someone else's wounds to sit beside your own without rushing to bandage them. I told him about my mom's silence after my first real heartbreak, how she looked at me like I'd failed at being strong. He told me about the girl who ghosted him a week after he introduced her to his parents. She said, "You're a lot of feelings. I don't know how to carry all of them." And then she was gone, I've tried to be less since then, he said. But less always ends up feeling like lying. I told him I understood. Because I did. Because I'd done that too, shrinking for the comfort of others, until I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. On Friday night, I had a full-blown emotional spiral. I was lying on my living room floor, still wearing my work pants and a mismatched sock, staring at the ceiling fan like it owed me answers. Was this sustainable? Were we just a quarantine-style fantasy 2 years too late? What if this whole thing was just romantic projection? I recorded a voice note and sent it before I could second-guess myself. It was 2 minutes of emotional chaos. Rapid-fire questions, watery sniffling, a reference to a scene from The Holiday, yes, the part where Iris cries over Jasper, and an apology for oversharing. 30 seconds later, he called. "Okay," he said without a hello. "Breathe with me. Inhale. Exhale. Again." I did. "Now, listen," he said, his voice grounding me. "We are not a situationship. We're a story in progress. The good kind." "Like a romance novel?" I asked, barely whispering. "Exactly. We just haven't hit chapter 4 yet. I'm scared chapter 4 involves someone dying. That's only in Nicholas Sparks' books. This is more like Nora Ephron with Wi-Fi." I laughed. He always knew how to find my humor switch, even mid-meltdown. "Promise me one thing," he said after a pause. "Don't disappear on me." "I promise," I whispered, even though disappearing felt easier. The next day, he sent me a playlist. He titled it Accidentally Yours. Track 1, Bloom, The Paper Kites. Track 2, Coffee, Beabadoobie. Track 3, Can I Call You Tonight? Dayglow. Track 4, The Louvre, Lord. Track 5, You're Somebody Else, Flora Cash. I cried while making toast. Not because it was sad, because it felt safe. Because someone out there saw me clearly enough to make a soundtrack out of our texts. I played the playlist on repeat that weekend, while folding laundry, while brushing my teeth, while walking to the store, and wondering if anyone around me could tell that I was quietly falling for someone I hadn't officially met. That Sunday night, we stayed up late talking about movies, which spiraled into a conversation about grief, which led to secrets we hadn't planned on sharing. He told me about his older brother, gone too soon, a car accident, a silence that followed him everywhere since. "I don't talk about him much," he said. "People get weird when death enters the room." "I won't," I said. "I promise." He told me his brother used to call him Little Philosopher, because he always asked questions like, what color is silence, or do shadows exist if no one is there to see them? I told him I used to write letters to my future self and hide them in library books. Not for anyone else, just in case I came back someday. "It's comforting," I said, "to know that a younger version of you left breadcrumbs." "You're still doing it," he said, "every time you text me." Monday morning came like a slap. Emails, spilled coffee, a passive-aggressive Slack message from my manager. I was neck-deep in corporate nonsense when he sent. Him, emergency. "What's your burrito order?" Me, chicken, no beans, extra rice, pico, corn, guac, cheese. "Why?" Him, just needed to confirm you're still real. I grinned. Me, still real, still mildly unstable, still emotionally attached to your voice notes. Him, same, replaced mildly with deeply. We started voice noting more after that. Sometimes short ones, 20 seconds of a thought or joke. Other times, long ones, rambling, confessional monologues I'd replay before bed. One night, I fell asleep to the sound of him reading a poem he wrote in college. His voice, soft and unsure, filling my room like a lullaby. I didn't know if it was love, but it was something close, something blooming, something worth holding on to. One night, he sent me a photo. It was a screenshot of our very first accidental exchange. The burrito text. Him, sometimes I think the algorithm knew before we did. Me, or fate, has a weird sense of humor. Him, either way, I'm glad I replied. I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed, me too, more than I know how to say. And that was true. Even now, writing this, I don't know how to say it. How to explain the way someone can become your soft place to land through nothing but a string of digital messages and voice notes. But it was happening. The next weekend, I went to the bookstore on Mason again. Not because I expected to see him. I just needed to be near the place where I felt the universe tug at my sleeve. I wandered the aisles, picked up a poetry book, flipped to a random page, read a line that said, "Some people arrive like questions, and others like answers disguised as accidents." I took a picture and sent it to him. Me, "You're an answer disguised as a burrito." Him, "Put that on a mug." Me, "Only if you promise to drink coffee from it with me someday." There was a pause. Then, him, "Deal? Tuesday's okay with you?" Me, "Tuesdays sound perfect." We still hadn't met. Not officially. But the space between us was no longer empty. It was filled with music and memes and vulnerable voice notes and stories we never thought we'd share. It was filled with the quiet knowledge that sometimes the people who find you by accident are the ones who were meant to find you all along. And me? I was finally okay with letting it unfold, even if it was digital, even if it was slow, even if I didn't know how the story ended. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the next chapter. I was ready for it. You said, falling for someone through a screen isn't supposed to feel real. But it did. After weeks of texts, memes, voice notes, and emotional confessions, we built something deeper than convenience or coincidence. It was connection. Raw, unfiltered, weirdly poetic connection. We didn't have rules. We had rituals. Late-night voice notes. Tuesday promises. Burrito theories. He made me feel like I wasn't too much. I made him feel less alone. That's what we kept doing. Showing up, even if it was just in pixels and playlists. One night, after we'd laughed about our mutual fear of meeting in person and ruining the magic, he said, "Maybe the magic doesn't disappear when it's real. Maybe it just evolves." And I believed him. We didn't rush to meet. We didn't force it into a box. But we knew when we were both ready, we would. Not because we needed proof, but because we deserved the next chapter. So no, we didn't have the perfect love story. We had an accidental text, a bookstore moment, a Tuesday hope, and a digital love that felt anything but artificial. And honestly, that was enough. For now, if this story had you screaming at your screen, you need to hit that like button and subscribe for more unfiltered tales every weekend. Got your own messy story? I might just feature it next.